this presence that has no characteristics as such. It's pure conscious presence. To sense that is to get in touch with the essence of who you are.
There is a concerted effort, there's a movement to replace our biology with technology, computer chips in the brain, chemicals in the blood, RFID chips in the body, sensors, nano sensors that we already have, we use in medical technology, to use them universally in individuals, running through our circulatory systems, reporting our biometrics. And this movement is sanctioned by elements of governing forces.
Imagine life as something you are as opposed to something you own. Instead of thinking of life as a sequence of happenings, think of it as a dynamic projection of a vast universal consciousness. Life doesn't exist outside of you. It is deeply encapsulated within you and everything around you. The life flowing through you is the same life that exists in every being, making you an expression of that life. The structures of your thoughts cannot contain it, so one can never lose their life. Everything changes with this realization. True awareness comes in when you are completely engaged in the present, fully aware, and especially aware of the gaps between thoughts. These spaces provide us with a new level of consciousness beyond what we can think of, the stillness within the ocean's waves. As the mind stills, one may experience a more vivid, alive sense of presence. This state isn't like free-floating away from life or the world. Instead, it is a matter of connecting with the core of one's awareness beyond thought. This self-realization can empower one to rise above the unmanageable chain of thoughts that govern modern-day existence.
My life is something, is a narrative in many people's head that causes an enormous amount of suffering. You can't imagine how many people's lives are made miserable by a very unhappy story in their head that they identify with and call it my life. It's people just driven to suicide by the unhappy narrative that tells them how awful my life is. And they never realize they are trapped in a delusion of thought. If they were able to step out, and again the question arises, where is your life? Let me think. This is all my past, my dreadful past, my probably dreadful future. That's my life. All the things have gone wrong, all the things that I missed, all the things that people have done to me, all the things that the universe has done to me, all that is all just been just awful. Nobody has suffered more than me. Nobody. And people don't realize how much unhappiness is derived from what they're telling themselves in the head. Now, these people need to come out of that if they want to be free. Do you want to suffer more? No. Okay, are you ready to step out of the narrative in your mind that says my life and realize that you don't have a life? That the whole thing that you call my life is certain thoughts that float around in your head and you identify with them? You don't have a life. You are life. And to realize that you are life, which is a temporary expression of the one life, the one consciousness that pervades the entire universe. You are a temporary expression of that one life. You don't have a life. And if you don't have a life, you can't lose your life. People say, he lost his life. She lost her life. How does that work? There's he and there's his life. Who is he and who is the life that he lost? There's a duality there that doesn't exist. You can't lose your life because you are life. You don't have a life. They are just memories and thoughts in your head, yes. But the life that you are can only be realized in the present moment. And in the present moment, the first realization comes to you when you realize that there can be gaps between thoughts. When you realize that apart from thinking, there is another dimension of consciousness in you that is not disconnected from thinking, but deeper than thinking. We could say higher too, higher than thinking. And what is that? That is awareness or presence. And you realize this dimension of consciousness in you right now when you become conscious. I'm slowing down, as you might have noticed. When you become conscious that there are not only words here being spoken, but there are also gaps between the words. And you become aware that there are these gaps between words or between one sentence and another. And when you become conscious of that gap, which we could also call a moment of stillness, you might notice that every time you are conscious of this little gap, when there's no word, in that moment you are aware, but you're not thinking. And you haven't disappeared. In that space of awareness, the essence of who you are is there fully. And yet, it's almost like nothing. And yet it's not nothing. Undoubtedly, there is a presence that is deeper than thought, out of which thought arises. And to sense in yourself this presence that has no characteristics as such, it's pure conscious presence. To sense that is to get in touch with the essence of who you are. And that essence, if we had to attach a word to it, to describe it, we would probably call it consciousness. You are that consciousness.
Think about a world where you are all powered up, but it's not just something you believe in. Rather, it is fully understanding this huge power that is sleeping inside you. The phrase, "you are a strong being," has been repeated repeatedly, yet it is an extremely profound saying, and quite often, people do not really understand what it means. It is a fact that I believe that many of us still cannot agree on. It is not just offering words that you are happy with, but it is more deep thought. There is a time right now where nowadays, as much as ever, the conversation is politicized, and wealthy chasms that seek our emotional involvement are the biggest topic served. Transformation in our lives cannot happen any other way. The pace of change in the world today is such that more and more people are coming to realize that they have inside them not only much more power than they ever thought, but also that they are by far not the victims they have always been told. We have amazing power not given to us by any institution or society but from within. Old unachievable goals do not hold us back, nor do we become puppets in a system of governance. Only Gregg Braden brings out that we can give back time by being the divinity we seek. The transmutation of limitedness and powerlessness through transcending to the power greater than any limits, including that one, would tend to impose ourselves and forget what is within them in the first place. First of all, we see that society is on the hook for these things to be much quicker for us and to help us become better versions of ourselves. Technology and AI in particular are racing. According to Braden, constantly developing technology has deviated our attention from the inborn ordinary things standing by us daily. It is not just human feelings, originality, and close-to-deity relations, but also the things we may never know or fathom.
I have found has helped our community in these last few years is to give context to what it is that we're talking about. You know, I can walk into a room full of people and I can say, hey, you know, you're powerful beings, and I'll watch everybody put their head down and take a note and says, I'm a powerful being. Doesn't mean a thing to them because they've heard it a million times And there's no context for that at all. And I think one of the most important things that we can embrace is the fact that this conversation that we're going to have right now, Guy, we cannot separate it from what's happening in the world around us. And I think most of your viewers, my community, certainly recognize that the world is not business as usual. Something's up, something's going on. Even the people that used to deny that anything out of the ordinary is happening now are in agreement that we are living a time of extremes. I think it's honest to say that. Social extremes, political extremes, economic extremes, climate extremes, refugee extremes, emotional extremes, financial extremes. I mean, you can go on. And it's not an accident that these are happening. They're not spontaneous. They're not just happening. We are living a process right now. And that process cannot be separate from our spiritual growth and our awakening as individuals and as a species. We are not what we have been told. And we are much more than, honestly, we are more than most people have ever even dared to allow themselves to imagine that they are, Guy, because we are so conditioned to think of ourselves as powerless victims of a world that we have no control over. At our public schools, we're teaching our young people, and this isn't, by the way, where are you coming from today? Where are you right now?
I'm about 90 minutes south of Byron Bay, if that gives any context.
Okay, in Australia. And
yeah.
But this is true throughout the Western world. We're teaching our young people that human life is flawed by virtue of its existence, that carbon-based life in general and human-based life specifically is flawed. And among our flaws are things like human emotion that can cloud our judgment and our decision-making. Things like empathy, sympathy, compassion are being viewed literally as flaws. The very qualities that we cherish as a species, there is a growing body, a movement in the scientific arena viewing these things as flaws. And if we are flawed as a species, it means we need something outside of ourselves to be the best version of ourselves and to compete in the world, compete in business. Young people are being told that something is technology. And I think we all know that technology is being dangled as the shining prize in front of our young people. They have been taught to worship the computer chip, to worship AI, to worship virtual reality. And this is all part of a bigger process that is unfolding in our world right now. There is a concerted effort, there's a movement to replace our biology with technology, computer chips in the brain, chemicals in the blood, RFID chips in the body, sensors, nano sensors that we already have, we use in medical technology, to use them universally in individuals, running through our circulatory systems, reporting our biometrics. And this movement is sanctioned by elements of governing forces. The policies are already being written and the laws are being enacted to bring us into what is being called the Internet of all things, or Ray Kurzweil wrote a book released this year, 2024, called The Singularity. Okay. And the bottom line is that there is a movement, and the technology has advanced so quickly. Guy, this is already happening. This isn't in the future. This actually, it started 2 years ago. So we are now in the process of undergoing this radical shift, and the best minds of our time are telling us, unless we change our thinking, unless we shift the trajectory, that very probably we are the last generation of pure humans that this world will ever know. Now, you mentioned a new book. I am releasing a new book January 28th. The title is Pure Human, The Hidden Truth of Our Divinity, Power, and Destiny. I'm pushing back on the transhuman movement as a global application. I appreciate the technology for individuals when it's needed. I'm pushing back on the universal application of that technology, the book has two parallel themes. One, I'm identifying, and I'm not pulling any punches, where the movement has originated, where it's coming from, who is pushing it, how it's disguised through the marketing. Very, very clever, very sexy marketing on the one hand. And on the other hand, the really good news, the new discoveries, Guy, the best science of the modern world is telling us that we are so much more than we've been led to believe. And that in many cases, and I want to be really clear on this, we meet and in many cases exceed the power and the efficiency of the very technology we're being asked to replace our biology with. Now that we understand on a deeper level what it means to be human, we outperform that technology in ways that are absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm happy to talk about all of those things. But when we talk about human potential, let me just say this and we can tie into it. And you mentioned the word first. I hadn't brought it up yet. The word divinity comes in, and it's tricky because that word carries a lot of baggage. For some people, it is often linked to religion because there are schools of divinity that link those things. But the contemporary definition of divinity, you can look this up, it's amazing. Divinity is simply the ability to transcend perceived limitations. And that's it. Transcend means become more than. Perceived, and I love this, perceived limitations, they may not even be real. These are limitations that we have imposed upon ourselves because of our conditioning, through our family and culture and religion and society and science. So when we're talking about replacing natural biology with machines and AI and chemicals in the blood, what we're doing is we are denying our ability to transcend perceived limitations. We're denying our own human divinity. And that's a big conversation, and that's what this book is all about. So
the true potential realization journey is not only about recognizing the inherent power within us, a strength that the narratives of helplessness and submission have blocked, but it is also an inner search for self-belief. The ongoing changes in the world are akin to the sharing of humanity's consciousness, which is where one can see the purpose of roles in life. The societal movements reflect the personal transitions we are going through, thus indicating that the alteration we yearn for in the world starts with our own potential awakening. We must let go of the shackles we have put on ourselves and instead be the best we can be. The power to build the life we want and the world we want is not in the control of the outside forces but inside of us. The right time to be aware of this power is this moment. We are changing the course of our lives and the world we live in by realizing our true potential. That's it for today. If you found this message compelling and enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with others, subscribe to our channel, and turn on post notifications for more thought-provoking content. Thanks for watching.